In today's Minecraft video, we are not in a flat world. We are in fact in a regular Minecraft world with regular terrain. And that's because we're going to be building a hostile mob farm that'll need to be in the overworld. And because we're building it in terrain like this, we are essentially saying this can be done in survival Minecraft. But of course, I'm going to use cheaty creative mode to make my life easier. And it's also now occurred to me, if we build this farm with grass, then passive mobs could spawn there as well, so it could be like a dual mob farm. Now, to make the most effective mob farms, you need to create a perimeter, which is essentially to remove all of the blocks that you see in the world around you, which is utterly ridiculous in survival Minecraft. Even in creative mode, it's going to be pretty tricky, so I'm going to recruit the help of some armor stands. And if you are interested in doing this in survival Minecraft, then I would recommend checking out ilmango and the SciCraft crew, who regularly build massive perimeters, removing all the blocks that they can, apart from bedrock. And they do this with crazy, massive TNT contraptions that fly over the world, duplicating TNT and slowly demolishing it until there's practically nothing left. So back to those armor stands. We can run commands at them, like making them teleport. Or other commands like particle effects, which we're definitely not going to use in this video. What we will be using is the fill command to remove blocks from the world that we are in. And we've got to be super careful when using these commands because things can easily go wrong. Now in that case everything went just fine, but earlier on when trying to use these armor stands, everything went absolutely horribly wrong. As you can see, I managed to teleport all the entities into one place. Not a good idea. So building a perimeter in creative mode is a challenge of its own, and I've started off by teleporting us to 0, 0, and we are facing into the positive directions, and that's so all the commands and stuff that we use can have positive coordinates, which just makes your life easier when doing this sort of stuff. And then we need to find a way to fill out these chunks going all the way down to the bedrock in these directions for beyond what we can currently see, because wherever we stand in the world, we don't want anything else to be loaded. One of the other things we don't want to do is remove the bedrock at the bottom of the world, because that's really difficult to do in survival. I'm not sure if there's even a way to do it in 1.14, which by the way we are in, and we're going to use 1.14 features to make this farm work. So as you can see, I filled out a hollow glass cube to allow us to come down to the bottom here and figure out exactly where the bedrock starts. I suspected that it was Y5, but that's the height where we're standing at. Actually, bedrock generates at Y4, so it's a good thing that I double checked that. And if you're wondering why I use glass, it's because we've got water at the top here and I didn't want it to flow down to where we were punching out to look for bedrock. So here come the command blocks. First of all, we got 4 to make armor stands. They are all 32 blocks on top of one another, so the first one is 5, the second one is 37, and then they have no gravity, they have invulnerability and glowing so we can easily see them. Let's bring them into the world. Take a step back, you can see there are 2 down there and 2 above us. And with this command block, we will then execute a command at all of those armor stands to run the fill command and fill in 32 blocks in each direction positive. So above the armor stands and outwards in these directions, it's going to remove all of the blocks and replace them with air. And if you're me and you're not so sure what you're doing with these commands, it's a good idea to make backups. Remember, it's integrated into the game now, so just exit the world, go into the edit menu and make a backup. It is as simple as that. And it occurs to me we'll have a much better view if we stand up here. So let's go in, fill all of these blocks in with air. And just like that, with a tap of a button, we have removed a large chunk of the world. And our next tap of the button will do 2 things, one after the other. Firstly, we're going to teleport all of the armor stands 32 blocks in that direction. I might actually need to make it 33. I'm not sure if it will go into the correct position. And then it's going to clear everything. So let's run this. And there it goes. It is... I can see the mistake that I've made here now. Okay, I've sussed it out. What I did is I teleported the armor stands relative to this command block, and of course I teleported them all to the same location. So what we've done now is executed at the armor stands for each of the armor stands to teleport from their own location to a location 32 blocks across. So now when I press this, you can see that they all move across. Perfect, and now we can run the second command. And all of that gets removed. Now here's where things get especially glorious. I can now press this button and the process will happen again. Let's actually add a little bit of delay, even though that seems to have not been necessary. Look at that, we have built our own world eater right here. Oh, that's amazing, sweet. With each press of this button, we tear out more and more of the world. Well, clearly this is one block higher than it should be, and when you've got a few blocks left and you're in creative mode, always a good time to have some fun with some TNT, right? So now we're going to add that command block to the end of this one, because I've removed the armor stands in the world. So that means we're going to, yes, bring them in and then move them over. Let's do that again. Aha, can you see what I'm doing? I'm stacking them all down here apart from one another, which means what we'll be doing next is teleporting them in that direction in a big group and removing all of the blocks. All we need to do is change the coordinates here. This is going to be amazing and could potentially crash the game. Let's see what happens. It is doing them all one by one. Look at that. The game went through all of those commands one at a time, and we have ripped all of this out of existence. Let's go and do that again. This is amazing right here. This is so powerful. And we can see when it's finished its job and just press the button again. Off it goes. Let's do that one more time. Oh my goodness me. That is absolutely amazing. Oh, wow. All right, this is going to plan, isn't it? You probably knew what the next step was going to be, but I had to show you it in action. This is simply wonderful. Look at that. And let's do it again. And just one last time. Oh, this is wonderful. Look, we've got a massive row of them. So here it is, my friends. We're standing in the middle of a 448 perimeter. You can see the glass that I put in the walls there looks really funky. Look at those patterns emerging. That's actually really fascinating. And also I have replaced the floor with these stone slabs instead of bedrock. Now we are not going to build at this site here, so it's the same as survival. However, bedrock on a large scale looks really ugly in a YouTube video, and this is much better. So these blocks will be bedrock, and we can place rails on top of bedrock, and it only appears sporadically at this height, so we'll be able to put down redstone blocks at that level to power the rails. The chances of there being 8 bedrock in a row are incredibly slim. We're building in this direction again, so the rails can be side by side. Always really important to check that. And just like the last video that we made, we're going to have blocks on top, and hopper minecarts are going to run underneath. Now these blocks will eventually be dark because we will have a roof on top of it, so hostile mobs can spawn there, so can passive mobs because it's grass, and we're going to use, unsurprisingly, the wither rows on every one of these blocks, meaning that the mobs will spawn there and instantly start to take damage. Once again, the power of structure blocks comes to our aid to make this nice and quick. So now we make use of the fill command. I've looked at the block in the corner down at that end and deducted 20 blocks in each direction. And over in this end, I've looked at the block and added 20. Of course, using tab, you can get the numbers just by looking at the block. So this is the command I've ended up with, and we're going to fill it all with stone slabs. Bam. And they are actually the ones that are the same color as the floor, so that's kind of annoying. Now I've changed the material so we can actually see where the farm is, and I've given myself night vision because of course it's going to be dark over here. And look at that, mobs are actually spawning on the wither roses themselves. So they spawn here and then they get killed by the wither rose. It's pretty overpowered if you ask me. So put glass around the outside of the farm so the mobs can't wander off. We've got the blocks across the back here for the minecart hoppers to hit and then travel back down to the other end. And what we have down here is a fantastic combination of a minecart hopper unloader and a clock that gets activated to dispense items from the dropper into a water stream. So let's go ahead and simulate this by chucking in some gunpowder. And notice how the clicking lasts a little bit longer. That's fantastic because it means that no items will ever get lost inside of this dropper. Now when it comes to this design, it is tileable and you can actually have the pistons side by side with one another, even though it might look like they get bud powered. Well, here's the thing, they sort of do, but they also get updated by this redstone torch. So if I go ahead and power this, you'll see the piston doesn't get updated until the one alongside it does. But the trick is here that it is actually the torch that's going to be updating it. So if I click the torch now, you can see the bud powering doesn't even matter. So with all of that in place, we have water streams down here to take the items away, and they come across to an elevator so that they can go upwards and through an item filtering system. And we're going to use the old ender chest trick, which I realise probably actually needs to go further back than this, because we originally pushed this out to the side, right? So the items come up here and they're supposed to go on a ledge where they're technically on both blocks, and then they can get the effect of the ice and the water and be picked up by the item hoppers, where we're going to have a filtering system. So let me make that modification. So clearly it's overkill and over the top, but we're now ready to copy this and have an item filter for every item that comes out of this farm. Okay, waves of items are now coming through. Look at this, whooshing all the way down here. I'm hoping that the way that I've set up the filtering system means that they will sort themselves out. So the first item to come through will be the first one here. And it is gunpowder. And then we have rotted flesh, string, arrows, bones, and hopefully we don't see anything twice. It's right as I say that I see rotted flesh again. I have a feeling that the blue ice might be too fast for the items, so we're actually going to go down to packed ice here, because I've seen quite a few items skipping over their filters and taking up the next slots. So hopefully that makes the difference. When the Wither Rose was first added, I had an idea. I'm sure many of you had this idea as well, to put it inside of your mob farm to help kill the mobs. Here is the thing though, it's not the fastest at killing the mobs. A creeper falling from the correct height will die a lot quicker than a creeper from a Wither Rose, which takes a little bit longer. It's slower, but there is an upside to this. It's lower down in the world, and the way the mob spawning algorithm works is it starts low down in the world, it searches its way up to the highest block, and then it starts over again. So if the algorithm has to search even higher to go to the roof above where you have your drop for the mobs to be killed, then spawning can be even slower. So in theory, this could have been a really fast farm, but as you can see, there's actually not a lot of activity going on there, and that's because of course we are in snapshots, and the spawning algorithms keep changing from snapshot to snapshot, and this latest one is particularly bad and slow, which was very disappointing after all of that hard work. We also have absolutely zero passive mobs spawning in here. These are also the spawn chunks as well, so there are no other passive mobs in this world and they are not spawning on the grass. It's also not related to the Wither Rose because I loaded up another passive mob farm I have, and it's no longer working in 1.14. So something's changed with the hostile mob spawning and the passive mob spawning. So here we are in 18W44A. The world has been open for about a minute, and straight away this thing is filling up with hostile mobs. No passive mobs, but this is much more like it. And apparently I have some places over here where mobs can spawn. Yes, I think they're able to spawn on the ice. So I wanted to call this the fastest mob farm in 1.14, and with good reason. Look at the rates now. This totally rivals having a farm built up high in the sky, and now we can have it real low down and kill them relatively quickly with the Wither Rose. I, my friends, have found a bug. Notice how there's no mobs spawning over there? Well, I'm going to do a magic trick and stop them spawning on this side. And what would you know? They're not spawning over there anymore. How could this be? It's because hostile mobs aren't spawning around the world spawn. If I go and set it here in the middle, then they won't be spawning in this middle area. And as predicted, we got a cluster over there. We got a cluster over here. This is just ridiculous. The witches are also really resilient to the wither effect, but they do eventually die. Perfect timing, thank you. So the next thing for us to do is to figure out how many drops this farm is making per hour. And we're going to recruit the help of a data pack to do this. First of all, we have this data point which we can place in the world, and then it will create this marker where it counts all of the items that are coming through it. First of all, we set the tracking time. This is going to allow us to get an accurate result, so I'm going to put in 3 minutes of tracking, and then we start the tracking, and after 3 minutes it will give us a result. 180 seconds later, the data pack tells us that this thing is producing 17,500 items per hour. That, my friends, is crazy. If you would like to use this data pack for your own projects, then I have a video about it on my second channel, so just look in the description box for a link to that. So Mojang are changing the spawning algorithm of mobs, and that makes it really hard to determine just how powerful this is going to be because things are subject to change. But I think we can all agree that the Wither Rose is very overpowered and probably subject to change. This proof of concept farm right here has been pretty interesting to build. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, leave a like. As always, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Leaving a like does make a difference, and I appreciate you doing that. So thank you as always, and I'll see you soon with another one. Bye-bye.